Welcome, good people, to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. I am your host, Kenny Groom. We got a very special conversation in store. This conversation is actually one of the byproducts of me, going to some of the conferences, meeting folks in person. I'm excited to have this person as a guest. This is one is definitely for all the creators out there. We all know that there's some technology, some really cool solutions being built around creators and making sure, those phones, those devices in our hands allow us to create some awesome things and tell our story and empower us. But without further ado, I'm going to bring our guest, Chynna Morgan. She is the founder of Vidlo, which is a turnkey solution for user-generated brand video campaigns. They're doing some incredible works with some artists. I don't want to spoil it. I want to make sure that I bring Chynna on the stage so we can start this conversation. So without further ado, let's bring her on. How's it?
Hey, thank you for the awesome intro. That was great. And
Yes. You're doing incredible things. At this point, you're actually, we'll dig into this a little bit later, but you started, this is not your first business, not your first rodeo, right? And so we'll dig into that. But incredible story as we were having conversations, meeting via LinkedIn. Yeah, folks, LinkedIn is definitely the go-to in terms of B2B.
powerful.
Yes, very super powerful. And so we just randomly connected and it was like, okay, like let's figure out how to get you on the podcast, sharing your story. So thank you for being a guest.
Of course. I always love when we're able to support each other, learn from each other. So thank you for having me on for sure.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Tell us what you were doing prior to starting Vidlo. Like leave no stone unturned. We want to know what it was like to be a young China growing up.
Oh, so you want to go all the way back?
Yeah, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back a little bit.
Back. Okay, so let's see. Before I went to college, I was in entertainment. So I was an actor, professional actor. So I was doing theater, I was doing a lot of commercials, I was doing like some short films. But I knew I had to go to college because, that's not a for sure you're gonna be successful, right? So I went to college. I was majoring in healthcare management because I always knew I wanted to start my own company, right? So I had my love for acting, but always had my love for business as well. So I majored in healthcare management. My goal was to create a home care agency, right? So I graduated. I was getting my master's in healthcare management, and then I had the idea of my first tech company. So the idea was, what if we're able to add our voice to GIFs to communicate without talking on the phone? And this time it was like 2016, GIFs were like super popular. But I was like, what if we're able to add our voice to it so I can hear the tone of like what you're trying to say? So I had no background in tech. I just had an idea and I went for it. I hired a developer, I hired a designer, and I created my first MVP. So I was getting a lot of people on the wait list. We launched, people loved the platform, and I started growing it as an app. So then Shell and Pennzoil reached out and asked me to create them a version for the Formula One event. I said, okay, this is a way for us to pivot a little bit and kind of monetize this even more. So from there, we started working with a lot of like brand activations. And what we'll do is we'll create like a music kiosk for events where it allows your fans to create content around your brand sound. So they're creating these fun videos, but it's around like your music to amplify on social media. So we were growing that, and then the pandemic happened. Everything was canceled, all events were done. So I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? We gotta do something where we can still work with our clients, but it's in a way that people can be at home. And that's how Bitlo was born. Was that a backstory to
I like it. Yeah, I like it. So you said something in there though, so I'm gonna dig a little bit further. You said you always knew you wanted to have your own business, be an entrepreneur, right? Did I hear that correctly?
correct,
So
yeah.
what, like, so does that mean at 12 years old you knew like there was something in your life that made you say I'm gonna be a business owner, and if there was, what was that?
So, even back like, even I was, like, maybe, like, 7, 8, I always knew I wanted to create something. And back then, I would tell my parents, like, I wanna have my own hospital. So, like, I wanted to have a hospital where there was, like, a music venue in there. So because I always thought hospitals were so depressing. So I was like, "What if I could create my own hospital?" And it was kinda, like, more of a joyful spirit.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so since I was probably like 8, 9, I always knew I wanted to start something. I didn't know I would be in tech. I didn't know what exactly I was gonna do, but I knew that I was gonna be an entrepreneur for sure.
Got it. That's dope. And the reason why I asked and wanted to dig a little bit, I think there definitely are like misconceptions out there in terms of like black founders not necessarily having like people in their life that showcased, right? There was
Mhm.
no like
Right.
initial like kind of seed and they grew into that. A lot of times we're seen as like unicorns, right? And it's like, no, like there's been black business owners since the beginning of time, right? And even in our communities, there's been business owners. I myself, like I can relate to, going to the barber, right? And that barber was a business owner, right? That was someone that I looked up to. And
Yeah.
that person cut my hair for the first probably 15 years of my life. And so it's like, oh yeah, I'm seeing entrepreneurship, like, right in front of me. I just didn't know, like, what it was called, but
Yeah.
I knew exactly what they were doing because those thoughts are always in the back of my mind.
But you know what? That is so I liked how you pointed that out. It's because I don't think we think of them as like these really cool entrepreneurs, right? We think of like tech entrepreneurs, they think we're making millions of dollars, but there's so many local people that are making it happen for our community, and they're the superstars, the entrepreneurs that are keeping this society going, you know? So I think we definitely have to shout them out for sure. We're keeping it.
Mhm. So, okay, so you set the stage, with your backstory. You said something in there, right? Hey, you had an initial idea, paid for, a developer. Like, what were people's initial reactions as you told them, "Hey, I'm this going from this, entertainment background into this space?" Like, what were some of the initial reactions you got from maybe your inner circle as you told them these things?
So I think it was more so going from the healthcare because I still do acting to this day. So that was never like
Mm.
from it. It was more so I was getting my master's and I stopped my master's to build my company. So to be honest with you, my family was super supportive. They saw the vision right away. So I didn't really have any pushback. It was more so, why not? Do it. I was like, okay, let me check this
Mm.
out. Let's see what we can do. But I didn't really have any pushback from there. Which I'm grateful that I have the support around me to say like, y- I guess I've always had the support of like you could do anything you put your mind to, try it. I don't like, there's no failing, right? There's only learning lessons. So there wasn't really a lot of flack for it in my
You j uh,
circle.
I'm curious, push that you got from your family, that's awesome. Were they willing to help fund the idea for you? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit.
So it was I would say me and my parents both kind of came together initially to like fund it. To be honest with you, when I first started, it wasn't a lot of cost to get started. So
Mhm.
it was more so the cost comes from always having to like come up with new features and like marketing budget because we were B2C. So that's where the budget would have to come in from. And we're able to get profitable. So I didn't need them as much as I continued to build. But I definitely had their support in the beginning when it comes to financially if I needed it.
Shout out to mom and pops.
Okay, shout out.
Yeah, shout out to them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like there's different stories, different that people have in terms of like that friend and family support. But it's awesome to hear that you had somebody in your corner, ready to really be your ride or die in this
Yeah.
situation, right? And go through some of those trials with you. That's amazing to have from day one.
Yeah.
How was it? So you mentioned the Gift Out Loud,
Uh-huh.
right? Being the first company. How did you know when to like, how did you know what to pull from that experience? Like you said, when the pandemic happened and all these things happened to pivot into what you're doing now with Vidlo.
So it's pretty much the same experience. I know people love creating content, right? We're in the society where people are the best content creators, right? And now it's time for brands to tap into that and allow their biggest advocates to become content creators for them, right? So it was a pretty smooth transition. It just pretty much it went from a kiosk to a SaaS platform. So instead of us customizing it ourselves and shipping out kiosks around the world, Brands were just able to go to our site and create their campaign right then and there, and then it generates a URL or a QR code so they can
Mhm.
seamlessly just send it over to their audience. So we just took the same concept and just made it super easier and simpler for our brands.
I like that. So you mentioned that it sounds like you're going to be a lifelong actor, right? Like this is
Okay.
something that you're gonna,
I don't think it never leaves.
yeah, it never leaves. I'm curious, like having that skill set, having that, that way of thinking, right, as an actor, like what about having that background has helped you be a founder?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it kind of inspired my companies in terms of content creators, right? You're creating these stories. And as an actor, that's what we're doing, right? We're creating these stories and we're finding little tidbits that we can create in order to like convey an audience. And I think that's pretty much what I'm allowing fans and your customers to do for your brand. So I think that's kind of like how it mixes in with both of my backgrounds. What was your question again?
Not actually, yeah, like yeah, just like in terms of like you said, being an actor, you have to like develop these characters. So
Yeah.
I'm curious how you leverage that to develop the character of China, the founder and CEO of Vidlo.
You know what? I never thought about it that way because I think I'm just myself. I don't think I'm, like, putting on a character. I think maybe from performing when I was younger, it just maybe the confidence of talking to people or reaching out to people or, like, knowing the confidence you have when you're building a company and how you have to, like, convey that to investors or to your customers. Maybe that's kinda came from my background as an actor,
Mhm.
I would say. But other than that, I that's a good question. I never thought about that.
So all right, I gotta dig because you just sparked a thought for me. This is just completely um, a spur of the moment thought. So do you think that as a founder, a black female founder, like you have the ability to be 100% authentic all the time.
You know what? I think for us not to think that, that's where we lose our power in a sense, right? And I think coming in as yourself is what makes you special as a founder, and that's what makes you different, and that's what how people can see your story and see why you built something. So I think to think the latter or to think any other way is not beneficial to you as a person, to you as you're building your platform. You know, I think a lot of times we think we have to change ourselves because we're black, because we're a female, but I think that's what makes us special. So, like, how can we hone into that and then amplify that, you know?
Thanks for that clippable moment there. That was amazing. I appreciate that answer. Um, I, 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 I pretty much second all of what you said, and I think when you're first starting a company, right? Like when I started Beyond Normal Media, most of the people that tuned in, they were tuned in for me.
Mhm.
Like, they didn't know the logo, they didn't know what the backstory was besides, "This is Kenny, I have some sort of a relationship with them. Let
Yeah.
me check in here," right? And then after that, it's up to the brand, the logo, the storytelling to keep them around.
Mhm.
But that initial kind of customer or investor is definitely going to be investing in China, the founder, so I appreciate you, stating that.
That but I like how you put that as well because, that is so true, especially as an early founder. You don't have a team, you don't have a whole bunch of salespeople. People are buying from you because they like you, not because your product's the best, not because you're just an all-star, it's just because they trust you and they trust your ability to deliver what you said you were. Um,
Mhm.
I appreciate you saying that.
They're dope. So I wanna take it to let's talk a little bit about um, creatives now. Like your product is centered around creatives. We know that as a creative, right? We want to focus on the art. Like we want to be sitting in front of the camera. We want to be doing the things that we want to do that are driving us to being creatives, right? And being a business, having your own brands, at times, you're not able to do that because you have to do things like accounting and like, paying the bills and like just doing those types of things. So I'm curious, like, what's something in terms of starting your own business,
Mhm.
being a founder, and what's something where you have to spend a little bit more time, because you don't necessarily like you don't have the background in doing that, and it's not core to being a creative. Like, what's something where it's a part of the business where you have had to spend a little bit more time to make sure your skills level up because you haven't had that experience in the past?
So I'm gonna say 2 things about that. I learned very early. So when I first started my companies, I was trying to do everything myself, right?
Yes, you.
I don't have a background in tech. This is not my world. So I'm like learning every day. Me and Google were the besties, me and Yahoo the besties. I'm just learning as I'm going. And I quickly realized is that I need help, right? So I had to create a community and a network around me that for skills that I don't have, I could reach out to them and get help and ask them questions. So if I don't know, I have a network around me that knows and that can easily help me do whatever I'm lacking. So that's number one. Number two, things I know that I'm not strong around, I would be like sales, right? Now, I can sell to you, I can tell you about my platform, but in terms of building out a sales sequence, building out like a sales system, I know I needed help with that. So it always took me a little time just to figure out that it's like a whole new world, kind of like a new language that I had to learn for my business.
Mhm.
I was but now I have people around where I'm like, hold on, I need help with this. Look, can you tap in?
Mhm. Yeah, bro. As a founder, like, it's almost like I just assume somebody's willing to take all, like, having their own business, like, you're not afraid to ask questions, like you said, like,
Yeah.
I did that at first, even with my podcast, like, I'll just do it by myself, and it's just like, "Oh my gosh,
You
this is too
stressed,
much."
you're not getting no sleep, you're stressed, you're an athlete.
Oh my gosh. And so it's like really good to have people in your corner who add value to your business, right? And why not pay somebody who's really good or at least passionate about the parts of your business that you don't want to necessarily be passionate about? Like
You know why?
it makes perfect sense to me.
Because you can't do everything, right? And you just can't. You're not gonna be perfect at everything around your business. And there's some people that are just better at you at certain things. And I think as a leader, as a founder, you have to know that and just hire people or bring someone in, a consultant, maybe it's like a part-time that can just take care of that. Because it allows you to do what you have to do, right? Like what are you good at? How can you amplify that on a daily basis, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit of like you said, you enjoy the selling aspect, like sales, like just doing it. Like what about that? Like envision your ideal sale right now in your head. Like, what about that moment excites you?
So I'll have to clarify, right? The part of sales that I love, right, is like when I'm connecting with the prospective customer and I
Mhm.
see that they really need what I'm offering. So it's kind of like I'm building something that's really changing someone's life, right? It's either
Mhm.
making it easier for them, it's making it simpler for them. It's just kind of like it's like that light bulb that goes off. I would say that's like the best part because as a founder, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, this is like, you have emotions all day long, but then it's all
Mhm.
worth it once you see someone actually enjoying what you're building. So I would say that's my favorite a part of, like, communicating with people on sales calls that I wanna see that light to see exactly what can we do, what other features do they need for us to build in order for them to get on board, what part of the demo really excited them, what features really excited them, so I say that would be the most exciting part for me when it comes to sales.
Yeah, I like that. Like you're solving, like you figured out their problem, right? And it's
I
like, oh, I got something here for you.
well, like Russ said, we've been waiting for you our whole lives, okay? We've been
I
building.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of you have customers, you have paying customers at this point. Congratulations. Like, tell me a little bit about like some of the more recent wins, or what are some of the customers that you're most excited about that you've been able to close recently for Vidlo?
Yeah. So let's see. We're working with a lot of like e-commerce brands, like yoga studios, digital agencies in order for them to like capture testimonials. But I would say like the most exciting as of late would be we're working with like a couple of music artists for their tours. So they use Vidlo to engage with fans so fans can create content around their music so they can share it on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or wherever. So I love experiences. So seeing how they're creating that like on-site experience using our platform for fans to like just have a good time with their music has been I say super exciting to see as I've been building it.
hmm It's interesting that you mentioned like artists, musicians. Like one of the trends that's here to stay, right, is if you go to a show, and you go to the camera is like they zoom in on a section right in front of the stage. Usually 90% of the people they're enjoying the show, but their phone is out, right? And so that's a part where that phone is like it's like another arm for us. And so I think it's really cool that you found a way to say, hey, the artist probably doesn't necessarily ideally want them to just be looking at their phone, but if there's a way that they can enjoy the concert, put with the phone in hand, and then there's like this collective where they can go in and kind of upload the moment in mass. I think that's really cool, and I think that's a really innovative way to from a creative standpoint, make sure the artist can still connect with their end audience.
Yeah, I always like to tell brands and artists, it's like, people are gonna be creating content anyway. At your
Mhm.
concerts, after they, like, buy something from you, they're gonna take a picture or video
Before
where the show is showing their excitement, so why not make sure that you create a moment, a branded moment, right? Where they can use their phones, create that content, and it's all coming back to you. Now they know exactly that they're on your tour. Now they know exactly they bought it from your store. So it's like creating moments of, like, it's like touch points people are already using already, right? People already have their phones taking pictures. Let's create an experience there where it's amplifying your brand even more, you know?
I love it. I love it. So musicians are, I would say that's like a big focus for you now, right? Or
Yeah, I would say so. So we're all over the no, I don't wanna say all over the place, but we have a lot of different verticals, that's working for us. So, like, music's the I'll say is my favorite just because 'cause I'm a music lover, and I like experiences and how they're utilizing our platform. But I also love how we're helping, like, e-commerce brands, right? Because especially smaller ones that don't have a lot of customers yet, but they might have, like, 5, 10 people that really wanna, like, share why they love their brand so much. And I think the key there is, like, people don't realize how much video testimonials can supercharge your sales, right? Someone vouching for you and you sharing that on your social media, you sharing that on your website is 70 I think it's like 79% of people that watch video testimonials are more likely to buy from you than not. So it's kinda like
mm,
this supercharged buyer tool that you can use just by connecting with your customers, you know?
got it, got it. I'm curious. Is there a vertical that surprised you that you like maybe initially you didn't think there was a big use case for, but they came through and they started to engage with Vidlo?
Oh, I don't know if it surprised me. We're working in the healthcare space, which doesn't always
Mm,
exciting, right? Kind of seems like a boring vertical, boring industry, but they're using our platform to capture patient testimonials, or create like
mm,
moments like in the dentist office where they can like smile and have a good time and like enter into the giveaway. So I would say that's the one that's like you wouldn't think it's exciting, but I love how
right,
creating these exciting moments to capture content. Not
got it.
any, like, surprised me. I gotta think about one.
I think that's a good one. Like maybe it's because I'm older now, but a good doctor's visit where like I don't get any surprises from the doctor and it's a fee and I don't have to pay anything out of pocket, at least while I'm there, is
Yeah.
usually like something where I'll be like, man, I'll record this. Like, this has been a great doctor's experience. 'Cause usually you're trying to take all the money. Yeah. But that is a good way. Like, it's not just like entertainment that is going to be using video moving forward. I could definitely see the medical field, healthcare, health tech, really embracing some of those different ways to get feedback from patients specifically.
Yeah, yeah. And we do a lot of, like, in the tourism space as well. Like,
Mm,
is it your city? How can you capture that UGC content showing why they love being there, and be able to showcase that on your socials as well. So, really, when it comes to video content, I think all types of industries can utilize it. It just depends on your strategy and how you wanna implement it, you know?
So how does the brand interact with that customer testimonial within Vidlo? Is it all the interaction done within Vidlo, or um, are they do? are they able to take it and put it on their social media, I guess is the answer. Like, tell me a little bit about that experience once the customer, has given some of that delightful feedback.
Yeah, so I'll give you the first flow when the brand creates the campaign, and then what happens when the audience creates it. So, as a brand, right, you're gonna log into our platform and you're gonna design your campaign, right? So, you're gonna design your landing page and you're gonna tell your audience or your customers what do you want from them in your video. Hey, let us know how we change your world. Give us some dance moves, show us your best moves, whatever you want to say. And then you're gonna choose how you want your videos to look, right? We have filters in there. You're gonna choose whether you or not you wanna capture a testimonial or music content. As an artist, you can upload your own music on there, for your fans to create content around that. And then one cool thing you can do is you can capture data, right? So if you wanna capture some CRM information, emails, first names, some custom questions, you can do that. And then it generates a QR code or a link. So you're gonna take that QR code or link and you're gonna share it with your fans or your customers, right? So your customers are
Mm,
gonna tap it, and they're gonna see your landing page. It's gonna say, "Let us know how we changed your life." They're gonna tap to start. They're gonna record, and then as soon as they record, it's gonna sync to you. So you're getting all of the videos in real time to repurpose for your marketing. So once you get their video, you go to your dashboard, and then you're able to download it and share directly to your website, social media, or you can just implement like a code and just put it directly to your website. Ye
got it.
You can. I know that was a little long-winded, but
No, I like it. I appreciate that breakdown. So there's some flexibility there.
yeah.
And there's the brand has the ability to, on their end control some of that, versus just getting an inflow of, engagement, same consumers. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there, when I'm thinking about content creatives, the buzzword now is AI, right? Is there an AI component for this?
So we're implementing an AI component in terms of how your campaigns are being made. And then like kind of like how we can generate your prompts that you want your audience to create content for. But we're not implementing it in to the point where like it's gonna change your customers creating your content. We still kind of want that, that realness that your real customers bring to your video. But we're implementing AI in terms of just the flow and the creation of your campaign.
Got it, got it. I'm curious, uh, from like a content perspective, like what do you think about personally about leveraging AI for your content? Like you personally as China.
I what I think is what's powerful about your customers is that they're real, right? And I think that's the difference between like your real customers, your real fans, and like influencers, right? Is
Mm,
because like you're getting their real thoughtful, their real emotion, their real thoughts about your brand. And I think with AI, that's just kind of it's not as real as if like you send me a link and I'm like, oh my gosh, Kenny's podcast is the bomb. I gotta send it to all my friends. Like it's the realness that's coming across in the video. Not
mhm.
if we implement too much AI, that's each kinda just loses that realness, you know?
Got it, got it. Yeah, I think there's, it seems like we're over indexed in a lot of areas in terms of AI now, in terms of some of the content we're seeing. Like it's blatant at this point, specifically on LinkedIn. It's like, oh,
Right.
this is a robot. You gotta do better. This is a robot.
Like, almost can tell, like, especially the posts, if there's, like, rockets on there and it's, like, everyone kind of has, like, the same type of, like,
Mhm,
paragraph, like, "Okay, this is AI."
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
But I think there's a way coming. I don't know if I'll be a part of the group that figures it out. It'll probably be somebody who's younger than me, who just figures out the right balance of it and to keep it organic.
Yeah.
Because at times for me, like you said, when I try to use some of the AI tools, it just becomes too structured. It's not necessarily my voice, and then I just go away from it, and then I start from scratch.
But you know what? I think that's good because it still allows you to have a human touch, right? And I
Mhm.
AI is super innovative when it comes I use AI sometimes when it comes to certain things, right? But I always go behind it and put my human touch and put me into whatever they're creating. So I think when people are like scared of AI, like they're taking our jobs, there's no human touch to AI. So we still need you to do your job with it. It has to be like a helpmate, not kind of like a takeover of the industry.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think the people who are stating that around the, like it's gonna take my job. They're focused on the process piece of the job,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I want AI to take all that. Okay, all the process, just take the process.
Probing.
Everything that is a process, just take it on. Let the robot do it for me. I'm just being honest. But when it comes to just the thinking and making sure the story flows and like putting the narrative together and like making sure it looks a certain way to a human eye, that's the part where, okay, like I can add some value. But
It
that process stuff, let it have the process.
The only thing with there is there's people that can lose their jobs because they might have the process role. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how can we help it just streamline their process? We still need them to clarify the process. Maybe we can do something like that, you know?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. But just in terms of creative, I'm glad you brought that up. Just in terms of being creative, there's a lot of process in place that kind of limits you even focusing on what you're there to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the opportunity moving forward, where somebody could start their business, right, and just have themselves, and now you got AI and you got this whole team behind you, and maybe you go out, you figure out how to hire people, contract and things like that, or add to your team
Yeah.
initially, but at least, out the door, you got some really cool tools that'll, level the playing field a little.
And I also think as a founder, if you're a solo founder, there's so many tools that can help. It's kind of like your team, right? So you don't feel like you're doing it alone. Feel like you have some type of help, especially as like a solo entrepreneur, you know? So I love where the space is going. I just think we need to tailor it,
Hmm.
and make sure that, people can keep their jobs a little more.
Yeah, I get it. I completely, I get the job function. I think topics around like universal, like basic income and all these other things are coming into play now.
Yeah.
I never thought in our lifetime we would see this.
I
We watched the movies growing up, I think all the apocalyptic movies, and it's like, no, that stuff
It's
it's
real.
definitely, yeah, it's real here.
Writers losing their job, like, they still need to, like, go over it and, like, edit
Mhm,
it. I mean, so I don't know their play with that. I mean, I see how it's, like, it streamlines the process, but you still need a human to, like, edit it and look over it and rewrite it. But
mhm.
interesting to see how that plays.
Yeah, how this plays out, and it feels like even, like you mentioned, like, writers, I think of, like, movie studios. I was a big Disney kid growing up, and so I enjoyed all those animated movies that they came out with, and now to see to the point now where, their studio is essentially just a room, right, where they can make everything just appear on the screen, and there can be a handful of people in the room, and they can make a whole movie, like, it's powerful, but it's like, alright, like, let me see how this balances out,
Mm,
in terms of creativity.
like, how is it affecting the whole industry in a sense?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I
Mhm.
agree.
So that's a great point. More to come on that though, for sure, like, there's so many
That
convers
was that. What was
yeah, yeah, we'll definitely speak back on that.
therapy?
What does it look like, what are the we have a concept, we've explored it throughout, the podcast, even from season 1, like, I call it world domination. Like, what does that look like for Vidlo and China moving forward? Like, where do you see the company being in the next couple of years, ideally?
So I really think we can be the main source of like how companies can capture their video content. So I guess the world domination will be us being like the number one platform for that. I would say. And what the space is super exciting because it's not a lot of action happening in this space. So it's kind of like perfect for us right now, just as we're exploring different industry, what's working, what's not, and then pretty much go full throttle from there.
I like it. I like it. Tell folks, I appreciate all this information that you've been giving. Your story is incredible. Multi-time founder. We've been definitely connecting in some of the spaces we've been in. We'll definitely be meeting in person sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about, tell our listeners a little bit, how can they stay in tune with the brand? Like, what's the best way for them to tap in? If they're a business owner and they want to leverage the tool, like what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm most likely active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's like my spot, where I connect with a lot of founders, a lot of companies to utilize our platform. Also, sign up for our emails newsletter. We send out tips and like education tools so you can know how to leverage video content for your brand. And then you know what? We always give out free trials. Like you can go onto our website, it's vidlo.video, sign up for a free trial, create your campaign, and see what type of content you got coming rolling in that you can get rolling in.
I'm actually excited to see. I'm not sure if you've had very many podcasters, but I definitely want to give the tool a try for my audience and see what type of video testimonials I can get from them.
Oh, you got me excited now. You got me because
Hey,
like we haven't tapped into a lot of in that space. But I remember I was talking to you before, and I was like, I think it can be super powerful, like a powerful tool that podcasters can use just to kind of like get their audience opinions about episodes. Maybe
mhm.
like ask them questions, maybe like some topics they want to hear from you. There's so many ways to leverage it, so I'm excited for you to get that going.
Yeah, I think it's some of the platforms now, like Spotify allows reviews and things like that now, but it's like kind of like the stale kind of Yelp method, right?
Mhm.
And I think this would be cool, like for those out there creators, then they have like Patreons or just exclusive communities, and
Yeah,
they're like, "Hey, we want to hear from you. We want to incorporate your ideas." Like, why not just have them submit a video? That's easier than a lot of times than them sitting there writing you a paragraph and
yeah.
structure. You just let them kind of flow thought, and then you could play it live. There's so much you can do from a engagement perspective as engaging with your community with a platform like Vidlo.
Yeah, and you know what? And then, like, allows future listeners to see, like, who your audience is and, like,
Mm,
they're listening to, and then, like, if they can relate to it, right? Because it's all about relations, right? Like, can I relate to his customer? Can I relate to his listener? Then they wanna figure out, like, "Okay, let me check out Kenny's podcast. Let me see what he's"
mhm.
and that's kinda how you can, like, engage more with your future listeners, you know?
And the last thing I'll throw out there is imagine as a content creator that you don't have to create content for your brand. That sounds amazing.
Listen, put
It
the
sounds
power in
amazing.
the hands of your listeners, of your fans, of your customers. They're pretty much doing the work for you, but it's because they actually really love what you're
Mhm.
well, it's not
I
really
love
work for them, you know?
So in closing, I wanna thank you for being a guest, sharing your story, doing what you're doing, pivoting careers. It's not often that many of us go to school for something and then we end up doing that one thing for the rest of our life, anyways, no matter what anybody tells you.
Yeah.
And so your story is amazing to me. What do you want to leave us out on? What do you want our listeners to take away, that main takeaway from this conversation that we've had today?
I would say the power of the pivot, just kinda like what you mentioned. I think that a lot of times founders, they're scared because they have this idea and they just wanna go full throttle with it. But as you're, like, growing your idea, you might get so many other ideas that can work better than what you're building at that moment, right? So I think embracing that and there's so much change and goodness that could come with you pivoting and being open to change. So that's what I'll leave with you is
Mic drop.
Mike.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Donna. Thank you for coming on again. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast.